Well, morning everyone. We all wake up this morning to the biggest change in our national life for generations. For all but the most essential tasks, we are all at home for the foreseeable future. And for 1.5 million, they're being asked to stay at home for 12 weeks. That is a huge change and hugely unsettling. But I want to ask the question, how should we use this time? Well, of course, some of us are still working. For others, you'll be caring for or schooling children. For others, if you're able and you do it in appropriate and safe ways, you might be helping care for the vulnerable in your community. But for many, in even all of us in those categories, it might also be a time to do jobs that we never just usually get round to. Maybe it's a bit of DIY or cleaning in the house or doing a bit in the garden. Well, can I encourage us all, in fact more than that, urge us, that as we're doing all those other jobs we don't normally get time for, to consider using this time we're at home to do something else as well. And I want to briefly do that by telling the story about a man who came back home. It wasn't because he was forced to by government measures, but rather the storyteller of this story says that it was because he came to his senses. That storyteller's not me, it was Jesus. The man in Jesus' story started his time at home, but to be honest, he felt his home was a place that was restrictive. He feels hemmed in, and maybe you can feel sympathy with that today. And so he decides to leave home. Not just though the bricks and mortar, but actually leaving his father. He says to his father, "Father, give me half of my inheritance." Now, of course, we know, don't we, that inheritances generally come when someone dies. So he's basically saying, "Dad, I wish you were dead." This man cared more about what he could get from his father than a relationship with him. And so he journeys off to the far land. And if we could have seen his Instagram posts or his Facebook page, I'm pretty sure we would have been envious. There would have been pictures of parties and statuses about wonderful relationships, the high life, food and drink. This really was the time of his life. But then the money ran out, and the things he loved, the things he normally looked to for joy and satisfaction, security and meaning, he couldn't have them anymore, or he couldn't do them. And in fact, worse, a famine hit the land he was in. The supermarket shelves were a bit more emptier than they normally were. And so he ended up taking a job, really the lowest of the low for a Jewish boy, feeding the pigs. Things got so bad that one day he was so hungry, he fancied eating the pig swill. And it was at that moment, when everything around him changed, he had time to think. Jesus, the storyteller, says he came to his senses. And so he decided to return to his father. He knew he never deserved to be a son again, but he thought, well, maybe I could try my luck and see whether my dad will have me back as a servant. And as he journeyed home, he could see on the horizon his father watching and waiting. His arms were out. But the surprise was, as the father was running towards him, they weren't arms out to throttle the son, they were arms out to welcome him back home as a son. And then there was a party thrown for the son. The very things he'd longed for, he actually found in this home, in this relationship with the Father. In a situation where all the normal things were taken away, he came to his senses. That is, he had space to think. He looked at life differently. He began to ask the big questions. He wondered what life was about and really what we should be doing. And actually, don't we find ourselves in the same situation this morning? The things we normally look to for joy and satisfaction, security and meaning, good things in the main, well, we've seen that they're perhaps a bit more fragile than we realise, not quite as strong as we hoped. Whether it be our sport, or for some our work, or our socialising, or our meals out, or our time with family members, they've been taken from us, at least for a time. And you know what though? In that situation, the man found something. He found a home he hadn't been expecting, one that actually wasn't restrictive like he thought, but was a place of welcome, of life and forgiveness, because he found it in the one who was at the centre of that home, a father with open arms. It's a home Jesus says exists, not just in a story, but actually in reality. It's found in a relationship with God the Father himself. And Jesus at this time would urge us to do the same as the man in his story. To use this time to ask the big questions, to reflect, to, as it were, come to our senses. To find out all about this home that Jesus is teaching us about, all about the one who's at the centre of it. A Father who has open arms for you and for me. It would be a crying shame, wouldn't it, to miss the opportunity of what this upheaval has done, whether we went looking for it, whether we really like it. It would be a missed opportunity not to use it. Not just to do those other jobs we haven't got round for, but to actually stop and think about the bigger things. And so I want to encourage us, whether we would call ourselves a Christian or not, whether we would normally think about these things or not, to take time in these coming weeks and to read a little bit about Luke's book, the book that story of Jesus came from. To read a little bit on what we're going to call Luke's journey, a journey really home each day. And to help us on this, on our St. Paul's website and on our Facebook page, each day we're going to suggest a few verses from Luke's Gospel to read, that there'll be a question or two just to get us thinking, and then a suggestion of a prayer you might like to pray if you want to. We're having to form all sorts of new patterns today and in the days ahead. Well, even if you're working from home, even if you're caring for children, why not make this part of your new pattern? Use this time that perhaps we hadn't expected to have to get round to do a job we wouldn't normally not get to do. Not just the DIY, not just the gardening, but actually to find out more about him. Can I encourage us, in fact more than that, urge us to use that time in this way? The worst that's going to happen is at the end of it you might know more about one of the world's major religions. But actually we might be surprised. We might just find what we've been looking for all along. Wouldn't it be brilliant that while we're stuck in our homes, that we might actually find freedom in another home, in a relationship with God the Father? So check out our Facebook page or check out our website each day and we'll update it to give you a hand. But why not journey with us on Luke's journey at this time and make the most of being stuck at home? All the details are there, so please do use them and follow them. There's our website and there's our Facebook page. Again, if you're somebody who's self-isolating and you're in need at this time, please do get in contact with St. Paul's. We'd love to find a way if we're able to help you. But have a good day, stay safe, and why not use this time at home well? Thank you.